In 1995, DVDs, the digital video disc, in a small size first came about as compared to the giant laser discs that we had been introduced to about a decade before. And then in 2001, music was changed forever with the invention of the iPod. How many of you own an iPod in one of its various forms? Quite a lot of you. How did we live without the cell phone or the iPod? And then in 2005, YouTube came about so that we can see all the funny things that cats do. And then the next year, Facebook came out so that we could say things like, dude, I was totally unfriended, and actually know what that means. People get offended with that. And then in 2007, communication was changed forever with the invention of the king of cell phones, the iPhone. The iPhone. Incredible inventions. Last year, I think, the most incredible invention came out. It's called the retinal implant. A surgery procedure that can help blind people to see. Isn't that amazing? And now they're trying to find a way to market these guys. The robotic butler. How many of you would like to have a robotic butler that can do your dishes, load and unload the dishwasher and serve? And what a cool invention. You know, we really have changed over time. And yet we always seem to go back to basics, from this kind of technology to this kind of technology. The baby mop. I'd like to order a bunch of these, maybe one in the size that would fit an 8-year-old and one that would fit a 5-year-old, so my kids can help clean the floors around the house. My son's real happy with that. That could have been one of your birthday presents. Happy birthday, boy. Well, it's interesting when we go back and look where we all started, with pottery and the wheel, and then we look to where we are today with retinal implants. And we think that we're so intelligent. And when Gutenberg was thinking about the printing press, God knew about the internet and Wi-Fi. And when we were inventing the retinal implant, God was thinking, I invented the eye. And when we were thinking about inventing the motherboard, God was thinking, I invented the brain, which is 1,000,000 times faster than the fastest computer. God is amazing, isn't he? I think sometimes he looks down on us and he's proud of his children for inventing the cool things that we've learned to invent. Just like I feel when I watch Caleb build something amazing out of Legos. I'm so proud of him. But then other times I think God looks down on us and says, you guys think you're so cool, and I can see what's coming next, what's coming next, what's coming next. In fact, in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 19, the Bible says, for the wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight. The wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight. Now think about yourself and how smart you are and how you have personally progressed from elementary school to the place where you are now in life. Think about how much more intelligent, how much more wise you have become over the years, and yet your wisdom is foolishness compared to the mind of God. A.W. Tozer puts it like this from a theological perspective. He said, in one effortless act, God knows instantly and perfectly all things that can be known. He knows it all. All that can be known. See, God's not like us. We have a terminal sense of time, and we have a beginning and an end. We know that there was a start date and that we have an expiration date. We know what our start date was because we know our birthdays, but we don't know our expiration date because God doesn't really want us to know that. But God can see everything so much more vastly than we can. In 1884, Edwin Abbott wrote a satirical novel called Flatland. This novel was an allegory that particularly was taught through math and science classes. Even today, this book is taught as a part of the lecture circuit throughout universities all over the world. Basically, the book works like this. There is a land that Abbott created called Flatland, and the characters in the story are all two-dimensional. There are squares, and there are polygons, and there are circles, and they all interact with each other in this place called Flatland. There are a couple of movies out. I tried to watch one of them yesterday at the fire station, only got so far before I got busy. But it's interesting that since they move in a two-dimensional world, everything to them looks flat. Circles look like lines, polygons look like lines, and so they learn to adapt in Flatland by feeling their way around shapes so they can tell what this certain shape is. They couldn't only see anything much more than just a line. So they had to learn how to use their senses in their two-dimensional little world. And then one day, a sphere, a three-dimensional ball, is introduced to the world of flatland. It just totally blows their mind because it violates all their rules and laws. They couldn't understand how they can suddenly see every part of this thing, as it started with a tiny dot, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger until it enveloped and became a part of their world. The sphere punctured their reality, and they had absolutely no idea what to do with it. Around this whole idea of God having unlimited knowledge, I once heard it explained like this. Our experience through life is basically two-dimensional. Okay? We can understand basically time and space. Those are the two dimensions that we really get. Now with space, we understand height, we understand width, and we understand depth. So we have a three-dimensional understanding of space, but when it comes to time, we only have a two-dimensional understanding. We know for ourselves that there's a starting point, and that somewhere down the line, which we can't see yet, there will actually be an ending point. With this one-dimensional awareness of time, we understand that we were born here. And then we went to school, and then eventually we met somebody that we loved, and they broke our hearts. Then we know that we're going to get married, and we're going to have children, and then our children are going to spend all of our money, and we're going to die. And that's about how we understand time. But what if God could look at time this way, and this way, and this way, and this way? What if God can look at time this way, and this way, and have a 360-degree understanding of time, a three-dimensional understanding of time, whereas we only have a one-dimensional understanding? Some people say we actually only have a half-dimensional understanding of time because we can kind of understand things that happened in the past, but we can't really see them before the day we were born. So we only have an understanding of the day we were born, and we don't even know when we end. We just know it's coming. So when you look at a number line, we don't have the line going up or the line going down or the line going that way. We've got a half a number line going that way, and it doesn't even go until infinity. So we have such a limited understanding. And we can't travel backwards, and we can't travel forwards. All we have is one step, one moment at a time, until we're surprised at the moment that we pass from this existence. And yet God understands so much more than us. Our understanding of life is one-dimensional. We are experiencing life one way. And perspective is everything. But we have to understand that regardless of how smart or how wise we are, our perspective is limited. Our perspective is limited. But God's perspective is not. When God looks at our life, He's not going, oh my gosh, I wonder what's going to happen next. Oh my gosh, what's He going to do? This is what makes Psalm 139 so interesting to us. And when we think about how limited our perspective is, it helps Psalm 139 make more sense. And I know you can't see it really well up there, so just listen to me as I read it. Psalm 139 says, O Lord, you have searched me, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Check this one. Check this verse. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord. He knows what you're going to say before you even say it. He knows what you're going to think before you even think it. You hem me in, behind and before. You have laid your hand on me. And then here's King David's response to this knowledge, this wisdom that he's gained. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. God is not surprised by anything you do. God is not surprised by anything you say. God is not surprised by anything that you think. He knows you in. He knows you out. He knows where you've come from. And He knows where you're going.